Good morning, everyone. It's our sharing session time again. Today, we are very pleased to have a sharing from our wonderful lady who is also a very experienced HR practitioner on the labor law in Taiwan. But before we started, I would like to give a brief introduction of AsiaHRM and myself. I'm pretty sure that AsiaHRM is not new to you. Actually, it's a HR community whereby all the HR professionals can share and exchange ideas. And organizing sharing sessions on regular basis is one of our highlights. And myself is Rita Chui. I'm the founder of this HR community. With this community, I hope that it can add value to each other. So without further ado, I would like to pass control to Ashley. Ashley is the Assistant Vice President of Canadian Bank in Cambodia. Actually, she's a Taiwanese located in Cambodia. It's quite interesting, right? Okay, so I would like to pass control to Ashley.
Thank you, Rita. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Ashley Wang. Rita already introduced me a little bit. I came from Taiwan. I'm currently based in Cambodia, and I am Assistant VP in HR Services Division in Canadian Bank. So basically covering all the telemarkets in Cambodia and only in Cambodia. But today it's a little bit different. I will share the labor law and certain general employment conditions and terms in Taiwan. And during the presentation today, if you have any questions, you can raise it anytime you want. So there is no concern if you interrupt my presentation or not. Feel free to ask any questions. And today I will have two main covers. One is for the local Taiwanese citizens, their conditions of working in Taiwan, and another part will be expats working in Taiwan. So I'll quickly go through agenda first for today's session. First, I will cover general employment terms. Second, I will cover general employment benefits. And the third part will be the quick look on the national insurance in Taiwan. And then the last part will be for expats. If you're expats, you want to work in Taiwan, like what are the differences then, compared to local citizens in Taiwan? So first, for the general employment terms, I want to highlight that when you work in Taiwan, there are two different basic types of contracts. One is for the fixed term. If you're working on a project or for a certain period of time, you will use the fixed term contracts. And for normal employees, normally I would say 80%, 90% in most of the industry are applying on fixed contracts. I think most of the contracts, fixed term contracts, will be using on those like relocated overseas, and for certain kind of projects, they will use this and renew the contracts on a renewal basis. And the second terms for the employment terms in Taiwan is the work schedule type. This is a little bit tricky part. For most of the industries, if you work on Monday through Friday and you have the whole weekends, including Saturday and Sunday off, then it's a standard work schedule. But for most of the retails, like especially for F&B, hospitality, they use flexi work schedule. Sorry for the typo. Flexi work schedule. In this way, the companies, employers, and employees can find the schedules more flexibly, because most of them sometimes work open business for 24/7, and some of the business open for a longer period of time. It's not only 8 hours per day or fixed hours per day. So for F&B and hospitality and retails, most of them are using flexi work schedule, and this part will be a little bit different from standard work schedule when it comes to arranging day offs and time off, and also the time breaks during the work day. And I'll cover that a little bit later in the next slide. And another terms I want to highlight is a notice period. So basically, any employee with the seniority, which means the service time equals to 3 months or greater than 3 months, when resigning, tender resignation, it has to be 10 days prior to the separation date. So that's 3 months up and 1 year, less than 1 year. For the seniority that is more than 1 year, less than 3 years, employees are mandatory, are compulsory to give more than 20 days, minimum 20 days or more, 20 days prior notice. And then if your seniority is 3 years and up, then you're supposed to give 1 month notice, which is 30 days. And so when that's from the employee's part, employer also needs to apply this term when it comes to the termination or separation. If the employer cannot be able to actually apply to this term, then the employer needs to pay this notice period to the employee. If there's certain reason for the early exiting, then the employer still needs to pay the employee for this amount of time, even though the employees don't work there anymore. But this is very strictly required by the law. And the fourth part is the severance pay. Basically, once you have 1 year of service with the employer, then you are entitled to 1 month's average wage as the severance pay. But if you work with the same company for less than 1 year, then this will be a pro rata base. So no matter what, you will get certain amount of severance pay based on the year of service. If this the 1 year, then you will get the pro rata pay no matter what. And the base is 1 month average wage equals to 1 year of service. So this needs to be issued after the contract ends, within 30 days after the contract ends. And this is also very strictly required by the law. And for the national health insurance and labor insurance, this part I will introduce a little bit more in details in the later slide about the coverage from the employer's part and from the employee's part. Basically, there's no certain percentage of this. Every year sometimes there's a revision of the coverage for employer's part and employee's part. It's not based on the percentage, but based on the actual amount that's announced by the government. So this I will introduce later on, but I provide 2 links here for you to go into in details that what are the coverage of health insurance, labor insurance. But for the coverage, the monetary coverage I will show in the later slide. As for the pension fund, we do have a pension scheme in Taiwan. So basically, on a monthly basis, employer is required to pay 6% of the monthly basic salary to the employee's pension fund, but not to employee's payroll, which means as an employee in Taiwan, we won't get this pension amount till we retire. And this is actually one of the schemes that has been in Taiwan for a very long time. And on top of that, actually employee is, we as employees in Taiwan, we are allowed to actually also deduct 6% of our monthly basic salary to say like, oh, I want to actually save a little bit more for my retirement. But 6% is the maximum for any employee in Taiwan. So maximum 12% can be saved in your pension fund. Some employees do voluntarily deduct 6% of their monthly basic salary to their pension fund because this is something that will be benefiting them tax deduction wise. This will be more in details. If you want to know more, I can explain more, or I can drop you a message about why is it benefiting to the employees when it comes to a tax deduction. But some people do that because for their retirement plan. But in total, maximum is 12% on a monthly basic salary, and 6% is borne by the employer, and another 6% can be coming from the employee's end. Okay, any questions?
Yes, actually, I do have two questions here. You mentioned about work schedule type, right? One is the standard one, and the other is the flexi work and schedule. So, are you saying that flexi work and schedule is also allowed per law, or and then every employer is given it the choice to choose between standard and flexi work?
Correct. Actually, all the companies established in Taiwan, they can choose for the business. It's either standard work schedule or flexi work schedule, but this has to be registered. This has to be approved by the government. So you can change your schedule just because you like to as a company, as an employer. This has to be notified the related government office. And then this is linked to the business registrations and business establishment. So when it comes to this business, we are applying standard work schedule, or we are applying flexi work schedule. So this is not something the employer can just change from time to time.
Ah, that's very interesting. You know, among all the labor laws that I have heard of, this is the first time that I see that, flexi work arrangement is allowed by the government, and it has to be registered by the government. Because a lot of times companies will arrange it by their own without really caring whether it's approved or allowed by the law, because we also think that this is the commercial decision. But in Taiwan, it's the okay. Second question about this servant's pay. I believe that under this situation, employees' position will be redundant. Then they can claim for this servant's pay. Am I correct?
No, not redundant. For many reasons. As long as the employee is not breaching the code of conduct or releasing any confidentiality to pretty much breaching the employee the terms stated in the employment contract. Anyone that the company decides to lay off, let go, then they are entitled to this severance pay. You can say redundant, or for any reason it's not something employee did that is breaking the law or breaching the code of conduct or breaching the terms stated in the employment contract. All employees are actually entitled to this severance pay when the employer decides that we no longer need your service for any reason, but not for the illegal reason.
Oh, I see. So if something to do with the performance of the work performance of the staff, and the company has decided to let this person go, then the company has this severance pay.
Correct.
Oh, I see. Unless the employee resigns from the company, then the employer doesn't have to pay any, right?
No need.
Oh, I see. And then I do have one more question about this pension fund. Is it, you mentioned about 6% of this monthly basic pay salary paid by the employer. That means employer have to pay, or employer has to pay?
No, this is borne by the employer. So actually, normally in the pay slip in Taiwan, the company will include that part in how much they actually put in the pension fund for that individual employee. But that is not something deducted from the monthly basic salary, or that is also not an amount paid directly to the employee. It's just an amount to say this is a contribution from the employer and this is saved in the pension fund.
I see. So at the time that the employee received this pension fund, would they get something more than 6% per month? Like the employer may put it in a investment plan, which allow them to enjoy a higher return?
Normally the 6% it's a standard percentage. So all the companies in Taiwan, they use 6%, but employee are encouraged to, pay by themselves and deduct the 6% from their monthly salary. It can be 4% as well, but up to 6% from the employee's side. They are encouraged to, hey, if you want to actually put this in your pension fund, and also there's certain benefits in terms of the tax deduction. So some people do that, but another 6% max will be coming from the employee's part. Some people do 4%, some people do 5%, but that will be the voluntary saving.
I see. If the employer has decided to do it, besides the tax reason, then there might be confidence in the investment plan that the company has subscribed to, so that in the end they will get more return by just putting their money at the bank, right?
Correct.
Oh, I see. Very interesting. Okay, so I don't have questions. Thanks, Ash.
Okay, so I'll jump to the next slide. This is a little bit, I know it might seem a little bit, a lot of information here, but it is very required. If I don't put all this information here, I don't think I can cover it properly, but I'll make it brief. So basically for working hours here, every month, there's a maximum working hours, that's 40 hours per month. And every day there's 8 hours per day that is a maximum for any worker. And normally, actually in Taiwan, we will have at least 1 hour break. But based on the law, it has to be at least 30 minutes break every 4 hours. But most of the companies in Taiwan, it just combine 1 hour for lunch break. And then, for this, especially in the one I mentioned, the standard work schedule, 8 hours per day and plus 1 hour break during lunch break. So that's a very standard working hours and work schedule. And for the time off, every 7 days, there will be 2 days off. One is called regular leave and one is called rest day. So for regular leave, this has to be decided in advance. This is my regular leave. So on this day, I cannot come to work. Another one rest day is something the company, for the flexible work schedule, some companies play with this day to comply with the law, to make sure the working hours and work schedule is compliant with the law. So, but anyways, to make it very simple, for the standard work schedule, every 7 days, there are 2 days off and 1 regular leave, 1 rest day, means Saturday and Sunday. So below I mentioned 2. Standard work schedule, 1 day mandatory day off, 1 day is flexi day off. Mandatory means the regular leave. Flexi day off means a rest day. So for the standard work schedule, Sunday and Saturday and Sunday are those 2 days off for any employee. But for the flexi work schedule, there's 1 mandatory day off within 7 days, which means the rest day can be in the second week, can be after the 7 days. And then in 2 weeks, there have to be 2 mandatory days off. And when you move on to, I forgot the 4 weeks here. Actually, every 2 weeks is 4 mandatory plus flexi days off. That means it can be 2 mandatory days off or 2 flexi and plus 2 flexi days off. And in the schedule, this has to be planned a month prior to the current month. And moving on to if it's on every 4 weeks cycle, then it has to be a mandatory or plus flexi days off. And this also needs to be scheduled a month before the current month. And then so on. If it's on the 8 weeks cycle, then the 16 mandatory plus flexi days off need to be planned. But no matter what, within 7 days, there has to be 1 mandatory day off. But depends on the cycle. So if I am using every 2 weeks as a cycle, 4 weeks as a cycle, 8 weeks as a cycle, and all these mandatory and flexi days off need to be scheduled as the law requires. That's the working hours based on 2 different work schedule. And then move on to annual pay holidays. Every year, based on the calendars, the annual pay holidays, public holidays are different and vary a little bit. So I share a little bit. In 2018, there were 14 days, 14 public holidays, and actually 2 days, because 2 days fall on the weekends, so plus another 2 days compensatory day off. And then in 2019, there were 15. There are actually currently 15 days, 15 public holidays in Taiwan. And I checked the schedule for next year, 2020. There will be 15 days plus another 2 days because for on Saturdays or compensatory. So in total, 17 public holidays off. That's based on the calendar. So every year, we can check for the next year, coming up year, how many public holidays. And normally, as HR, we will announce this by end of the year to all employees that, hey, this is a new schedule for you. And so on. People can plan for their leave or block leave, annual leave, anything, based on the calendar that's announced by the government. And for the annual pay leave, this is based on the years of service, and which means is seniority. So if you work with the company for more than 6 months, less than 1 year, then every year, automatically you are entitled to 3 days. So for example, if previously, actually 2 years ago, it was still the old, the law was different from now. Previously, it was starting from seniority 1 year up. But just 2 years ago, we revised the law. So even if you only work 6 months in a company, you are already entitled to 3 days. So as soon as you join the company and then past 6 months, then you are entitled to 3 days. And then when your seniority reach 1 year, less than 2 years, then every year you have 7 days annual leave. And so on, above 2 years, less than 3 years, you have 10 days entitlement. And then 3 years up and less than 5 years, you have 14 days, 2 weeks. And then 5 years up and less than 10 years, then you have 15 days. If your seniority exceeds 10 years, every single year on top of that 10 years will equal to 1 additional day off. But the maximum annual leave will be 30 days, so which means pretty much like a month time off. And that's annual pay leave. For the pay sick leave, normal sick leave, each employee will get the half pay on that day. And actually, in total per year, the pay sick leave will be 30 days maximum. But if it's not normal sick leave, you are sick and needs to be hospitalized. This can be in 2 years' time, and you can apply for 1 year, long sick leave because for the medical requirements and also if you are hospitalized or you need to rest at home, it's the same thing. As long as there's a medical certificate that stating you need to take a long sick leave, then you can apply for up to 1 year long sick leave in the current company, and that's in the 2 years maximum. So you can take time off and then plus another time off, different period of time off. But within 2 years in total, there can be only 1 year in total as maximum. But that's just for the personal health condition issue. But if it's caused, the health condition issue is caused by the occupation itself, then you will have a full pay. And this is also subject to the medical certificate. So it has to be written down that the injury was caused by caused at work or caused by the occupation. And if that's the case, you'll get full pay. Okay. Any questions so far? Hello?
Ash, I have a question. You didn't mention about the probation period. How long is the mandatory probation period in Taiwan?
There is actually no mandatory probation. It can be 3 months or 6 months, as long as it's a mutual agreement between the employee and employer. But 6 months is pretty much the maximum. So you can go from 3 months and 6 months. Depends on the job itself. Sometimes it's 3 months. Actually, majority of the companies I know and I work with, the probation period is 3 months.
Oh, I see. And you mentioned that 6 months is pretty much the maximum, but if employer finds that a senior executive doesn't really meet their expectations in 6 months time, then the company extend it to another 3 months or even another 6 months?
Can. As long as there's a very clear reasons that the extension of the probation is required, then that will be stated. And of course, there will be another document to actually stated the probation has been extended. And then both parties have to agree on that.
Then is there any regulations governing the notice periods, termination notice period?
Yes, it's by the Ministry of Labor.
What is it about? 1 month or 3 months, or what is the duration of the notice period?
Notice period, in the previous slide, the notice period, if it's more than 3 months, but less than 1 year, then you have to notice 10 days.
Okay, 10 days.
If the seniority is more than 1 year, but less than 3 years, then 20 days. And 3 years up will be 30 days. But that's normally 1 month. But the cases, there are some cases that people are sitting at the really higher and the executive positions, and normally the company will actually compromise, ask the employee to compromise that they might need them to stay in the position for 2 months or till they find a replacement before they can actually exit, separate from the company. So 30 days is what the law requires. But in some cases, for certain positions, employee and employer can actually reach another mutual agreement to extend the notice period, so they can actually, work while the company is looking for the replacement for the position. So sometimes it can be more than 1 month.
I see. Understood. I don't have questions. If a question from other participants, you just feel free to ask Ash, because she's really knowledgeable on all this kind of stuff. Okay, so I don't have other questions.
Okay, so I'm just gonna move on to maternity leave, prenatal leave, and then breastfeeding leave. Interesting for this part, because I think in Taiwan, the law has been transforming, and we really focus on this part, taking care of the female employees, and also the males when their wives are giving birth to babies. So I think this is a really interesting benefits to whoever works in Taiwan. Basically, for maternity leave, it's 8 weeks before and after delivery. So it's really flexible. As a female employee, I get to choose, how to maximize my 8 weeks leave, and before and after. Because some people might want to use this time a little bit close to the delivery day. Some people might want to use it before, and then after delivery, they don't see, the leave will need to be so long. So it's flexible for the female employee to decide for themselves. The pay will be different though, based on seniority. If the seniority is more than 6 months, then you, as a pregnant female employee, you get the full pay. But if you just join the company and then the seniority, the time of service is less than six months, then you are only entitled to half pay. But the length of the leave is still the same. For prenatal leave, actually 5 days during carrying, full pay. For male, this part though, 5 days during 15 days before and after delivery, including the day of delivery, and also full pay. So a lot of male employees will actually use these days to accompany the wife, and then actually that the salary the salary will be paid for 5 days while they are taking care of the family. And another one is for breastfeeding leave. This is actually on top of the normal break. So normal break for each employee, it's already 1 hour. Normally it's 1 hour lunch break. So besides that, there is extra 30 minutes twice per work day. So in total, actually, you can consider there will be 2 hours, 2 hours break per day, and you just break into some company break into 2, some company break into 3 different time periods. But in total, actually, there will be 2 hours break for the female employee during that time, and this the break will not be, the salary during the break will not be deductible, so it's still full pay. That's part of the interesting benefit for the female worker. I think should be highlighted here. As for parental leave, there will be different criteria based on the seniority. So basically, you have to be you can it's not just 6 months or working in a company. You have to be working in a company for more than 1 year, and then this will be applicable till the newborn baby reach 3 years old, and you can actually apply for 2 years, up to 2 years, but this will not be paid for. But that's being said, if you actually apply for the parental leave, and the first 6 months on the parental leave, one of the parents, so either the wife or the husband, can apply for a 60% allowance for parental leave. And this means 6% of the insured monthly salary. So whatever the national insurance coverage base is, let's say if my national insurance base is, my monthly salary is $24,000, and then that would be the base I use here, times 60%. So I'll still get the 60% every month up to 6 months pay, but more than that, it will automatically turn it into unpaid leave. So 60% paid leave during the 6 months, and up to after 6 months, there will be unpaid leave. But as a female employee who just gave birth to my baby, I can actually take leave up to 2 years. So that's a little bit different in terms of the monetary support. There's still 6 months support for the female employee, and this is a pretty good benefit in Taiwan. Consider like people need to take some time off, but they still want to keep the job. So normally they'll take this parental leave and then still keep the position. But interesting enough, though, for many cases that I know, that the moms, the female employee and the employer, when this leave happens, there's always an upfront agreement to state that when the employee comes back, the position might change. So normally what the company will do is to actually draft this agreement to state that once the employee comes back, the position and the reporting business unit might change, and to actually avoid the dispute later on, this agreement normally is drafted and then signed off by both parties prior to the leave. So there's no dispute, and after 6 months come back, perhaps the position will not be available anymore, and then they will find the suitable position and also interview the employee, and employee agrees, and then they will transfer this person to the new position if the original position is not available anymore. So that's one part I want to highlight. As a company, you want to do this when people are on the longer period of leave, and this is one of the leave that most of the companies will actually draft the upfront agreement prior to the leave. And then also including in the approval on the leave. So this agreement normally needs to be reached by both parties before the leave can be approved. Okay, so I'll move on to OT pay in Taiwan. Working overtime had been an issue before, because some retail workers, especially for the employees who are applying the flexi work schedule. Actually, that was one of the reasons the flexi work schedule was born, because there were not a very clear governance on those people who work in hospitality, F&B. So there are pros and cons about a flexi work schedule, but I think at the time it was mainly born because there are more close governance on certain industries or work schedule that need to be monitored closely. So flexi work schedule was born. That's being said, because there's a really big, really collective awareness on work-life balance. So OT pay is also part of the highlight in the benefits, and also strictly required by labor law in Taiwan. Basically, when an employee works overtime, there are two options. One is to get the compensatory time off. So 1 hour OT equals to 1 hour compensatory time off, or it will be calculated as an OT pay and be paid to the employee on a monthly basis. So basically, for the standard work schedule, I put the standard work schedule here is because for flexi work schedule, it will be based on the roster every month. So it will be very complicated based on, what's the rest day you say, what's the mandatory day you mean here. So regular, that's mandatory, and rest is it's another time off that the company and employer can schedule with the employee based on the mutual agreements. So I put down the OT pay here based on the standard work schedule to just, it's just a little bit easier to understand. So basically, if I'm an employee, I work overtime for 2 hours, then I will get the hour pay, those 2 hours hour pay, 1/3 of the hour pay for those 2 hours. Sorry, I think I put the typo here. So basically, my original pay plus 2 hours hour pay, which will be equals to 1/3 of the hour pay times 2. But if I work overtime for about 4 hours, then I will get the hour pay 2/3 of my hour pay, and on top of the original pay, original hours of work that I'm supposed to get. So I mean, if I work 8 hours plus 2 hours, there will be 10 hours. One is 10 hours my basic plus 2 hours, and then 1/3. And then if I work for 8 hours plus 4 hours, that will be 12 hours. So 8 hours will be the basic pay, and another 4 hours will be 2/3 of the hours on top of the 12 hours I work during that day. So most of the time, the company, even if they need to have the employee to work overtime, they will strict it to less than 2 hours, because more hours equal to more pay to the employee, and sometimes it's not considered productive. So most of the time, even there's OT, some companies even say after 2 hours you have to go. You cannot work anymore. So for many reasons, work-life balance reason, and also on the company side, it just doesn't seem productive enough. But that's on the standard work schedule. But if anyone who works on the public holiday, which I stated in the previous slide, into the 2020, there will be 17 public holidays. If anyone works on public holiday, or the one I mentioned, the flexi work schedule, the mandatory day off, then that would be automatically double the pay. So I work 8 hours on the public holiday, I will get 16 hours pay during that day. Or if I work on mandatory day off, I'm supposed to be off, but I got called in, I need to work on this day. Then I will come in work, and I will be entitled to the double pay of that day's work, based on the hours I work. So that's the OT pay I want to cover. I know it's a little bit complicated, so if you have any questions, you can ask now.
Ash,
If
Ash, I have a question about these work hours. Is there any maximum work hours that an employee can work in a month or in a week?
Yes, actually, let me see. I think I put it here. If I didn't, I might share later. So basically, it's in the working hours on the top. Basically, there are, if we look into the flexi work schedule, normally there should be, for the flexi work schedule, if I'm not mistaken, I think the total work hour during 2 weeks is 48 hours, because we can, for every day, the worker can work out, can extend the working hours for 2 hours. But that's only for the standard work schedule. For the flexi work schedule, every 2 hours, and if there are more hours, it can be extended as the hour that was transferred from the other day to the current day. So in total, 48 hours for the standard work schedule. For flexi work schedule, it has to go. It has to go with the every 7 days, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 8 weeks cycle. Sorry, every 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks cycle. And then the working hours is the same. So for a month, it should be 48 hours. And in details, let me see if I can say it in more details. It's very challenging to actually comply with the flexi schedule in Taiwan. So normally the company actually have a system to do the rosters every month. Because it's so easy to be in compliance with the law. So most of the current practice is most of the company use a system to help with the rosters every month.
I see. Okay, I don't have other.
Yeah.
You can move on.
Yeah. I can probably provide more detailed information about flexi work schedule later on. But it's just so many don'ts in that specific work schedule term. I think it will be a long coverage. Too much is a long coverage for today. Okay. So I will move on to the unfair dismissal. Reasonable dismissal in Taiwan, of course, is 200% prohibited. If it happens, actually, there's a penalty to the employer. As I checked online, it's normally from 300,000 to 1.5 million. Depends on the cases, how severe it is, how it impacts on the employee, how serious it impacts on the employee. So the penalty will be different, and this will actually subject to the court's decision on how much the employer has to pay as a penalty.
Okay.
Okay, and the minimum wage, actually, I think since the workforce has been gaining a stronger and stronger voice in Taiwan, every year actually there's a little bit increase in the minimum wage. So I say the increasing trend. You can give a little bit background from since like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 2015 to 2016. You can see the trend is increasing, and I just double checked for next year. The minimum wage on a monthly basis will be 23,800, and the hour rate, the minimum hour wage, will be 158 Taiwan dollars. So this is a new one that all the companies need to comply with. starting next year, January 1st, 2020. And for the unemployment, it's also one of the benefits that's the highlight in Taiwan. So for people during a war, during one job and another, during the employment period, they if they fit the criteria qualification, then they can apply for the unemployment insurance from the government. So basically, this insurer must have 1 year coverage. So if your insured monthly salary is less than 1 year, then you can really be entitled to apply for it. And the employment, so this is important. The unemployment has to be involuntary, so it has to be a layoff, or it has to be a redundant reason. So they didn't voluntarily attend the resignation. So it has to be the reason of unemployment. It has to be involuntary, and also this means it has to be a legal worker registered. So if you work on certain kind of type of contract that is not the legal contract, it's just a mutual agreement between you and another person, then you're not entitled to this. So also you have to you must state that in the request you have to state that you didn't refuse, you don't refuse to work. It's because you want to work and you cannot be employed. So there will be like certain questions that are being asked when you apply for this unemployment insurance, and also it has to be like you're not being during that time of unemployment. It's not because you are under the training probation. It's not because you're required to go through some training. It has to be that you don't have any other things going on or occupational training going on, and during that time you just don't have a job, and you are looking for a job actively, but you just haven't been able to be employed. And so then this is a qualification. If you can state it clearly that for many reasons you need this support, this insurance support, then you can apply for it. And then this benefits will, if everything goes well and approved, you will be entitled to this insurance benefits till you find a suitable job offer. Then this will be stopped, or you go through a certain vocational training. Then this will be this support will be suspended from the government. So basically, this has to be reporting also from the employee's part, that if there's any employment actually come into place, then this has to be reported or inform the related office. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the benefit which said here is in number 2, under number 2, unemployment benefits. That will be the 60% of average monthly earning, which this one means the insured monthly earnings previously in the 6 months before employment. The benefit is payable after 14 days. So basically, up to after 14 days waiting period, and then it will be paid to whoever apply for qualify and apply for requested and apply for this up to 6 months. For up to 3 months, within 2 years of less receiving unemployment benefits for 6 months. So no matter what, it's a 6 months period. And then the new claim, if there's a new claim, then within the 2 years, the last receiving benefits, unemployment benefits has to be 6 months. So you cannot keep continue applying for this. If the unemployment happened now, it has to be 3 months in between. 3 months period in between for a new claim.
Understand.
So it's just something that the government is trying to make sure that no one is trying to take advantage of this unemployment insurance. So you cannot just work for a while and then just decide to quit, decide to do something and then lead to the involuntary like laid off or unemployment, and then you can apply for this without working.
Understand. Okay.
So that's the coverage for unemployment insurance in the qualification for it. And I put in the Labor Standards Act. This is the website everyone can go to, but it will be in more details. So it's a little bit longer to read, but all the details are there, and the highlights are in this slide based on that, based on the Taiwan Labor Standards Act.
Understand. Okay.
Okay, so previously in the first slide, I mentioned the national health insurance and the national labor insurance. And I mentioned the coverage will be in the later slide, which is in the slide 3. This is the coverage I mentioned. So it's not on the percentage base, it's on the salary range base. I cannot list all of them. So I do 1 to 10, 10 and 20, 21. So actually there are 48 different salary ranges. So let's make an example. If my monthly salary is 27,000, and then we can see it's between 4 and 5. And in this case, because it's more than 4, so I have to choose 5. So I'm actually in this salary range 27,600, although I'm only getting paid 27,000 per month, but I'm in this range. So as an employee, every month I need to pay this amount. This will be deducted from my salary. And for the employer, this is the amount they will pay for me, so I can have the labor insurance. And so any occupational risk, like any support for the injury that is caused by the occupation, this is part of the labor insurance. So the employer has to pay this amount for me. And then I need to pay by myself, which is deducted from my monthly salary, this amount, 607. And for the health insurance, it will be 388. And for the employer, they need to pay this amount. So in total, employee and employer, the coverage are stated here. That's why in the first slide I mentioned the majority of the coverage is borne by the employer, and then the remaining insurance fee will be covered by employee. But actually, the majority of the fund will be coming from the employer. For this health insurance, there are more details about the immediate family members. So if I'm the worker, I want to actually have some discount on the health insurance for my kids or my husband, and then I can actually apply for the family members insurance coverage if I'm currently employed by the company, and there's a certain discount on this as well. And there will be different coverage on for the kids coverage, and then for the spouse coverage if the spouse is not employee. So basically, we can use this. So there's a certain discount and benefits for the immediate family members as well, so for the insurance coverage, and that will also be based on the salary range here. And the percentage, because it's also another extra information that if anyone's interested, I can provide later on. But for the employee itself, the coverage for me as an employee is right here. As for the one I mentioned, for my immediate family members who are not employees, can be benefited from my current employment.
Then Ash, I have a question for you about this health insurance. Like different range would generate different amounts for the contribution from employer and employee. How about the coverage amount for each level of this staff? Would they be the same? Like I'm earning, for example, 162,000 a month. Then apparently I have to pay 2,291. My coverage and the insured amount be the same with the one who are at salary range of 23,000?
You mean less than 23?
Yeah, or the salary range which is lower than 100 than the one that I just mentioned. Like for a blue collar, apparently the salary range it could be at 24,000, right? But a senior executive salary is at 162,000, something like that. So the amount of contribution is different. How about the coverage and the insured amount? Would it be the same or different?
It's the same because it's national insurance. It will be the same. All the benefits coming from national insurance will be the same.
Ah, that's it.
Yeah. Yes. No different. No difference in the insurance coverage, but but because you are earning more, consider. I think that's a logic. You are earning more, and you contribute to the national insurance scheme to support all the other the social. This is a social welfare, right? So you are earning more on a monthly basis. You cover more to keep this national insurance scheme going and benefiting all people in the country. So that's why labor insurance, health insurance are two parts. Because even I don't work, I have my health insurance anyways. So it's just it's just a discount itself, and also coming from the contribution point of view, as a contributor in the country, and so so the coverage, the fee is different, but the insurance benefit coverage is the same.
Oh, very interesting. Then, according to your experience, is it enough to cover the medical needs of one's individual in Taiwan?
Actually, basically, if let's say, actually, the national insurance medical scheme in Taiwan is very highly structured. I think that's very known for. Yeah, we're pretty known for it. So basically, to actually use any clinic service, hospital service, we have really good service in terms of, like, you can pre-book your numbers, you can see the specialists, and all the specialists are available instead of having one clinic and you have to book it like 2 weeks in advance, or if you go to the hospital and sit there, you have to stay whole day or see half day to wait for your turn to see the doctor. Actually, in Taiwan, the medical and insurance scheme is very structured, highly structured. So the costs, to be honest, like every month paying this fee, that's considered not much, because when we go to the hospital or clinic, we pay really minimum fee for the medications, and also for the consultants from the nurse or from the doctors. So this helps so much, because without the insurance, it will be 10 times more if you don't. You are not covered by the national insurance. If you go see a doctor, let's say I pay actually maybe 15 times more. If I go see a doctor now for my dental, if I don't have my insurance card, I will probably need to pay 3,000.
Wow.
But if I have it, I might just pay 150 or 200. Depends on the reason I'm there for. So that's being said, with the health insurance, that is something that's the biggest benefit for all the citizens or the people residing in Taiwan. And for labor insurance, of course, it covers a lot of that we mentioned, like the pension, that we mentioned the unemployment insurance, that we mentioned the occupational support, injury support. So that's covered under labor insurance. But for health insurance, is just if you're working, the employer needs to cover that part for you. But if you're not working, of course, you cover yourself for your health insurance part.
I see, understand. So if I'm a retired person, I can still contribute into this health insurance scheme, so that I am also covered. Oh, okay.
Correct. Yeah. So health insurance is for everyone, but it's just a coverage different. If you're under employment, and then of course you cover less, because the employer is the one who is also needs to contribute into your health.
Okay, understand.
Consider that.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the insurance
Very
part for Taiwan. And I want to quickly cover the part that consider if you are an expat, you want to work in Taiwan. So basically, the minimum salary is a little different from the one I just showed. That's for the local Taiwanese citizens. But consider if you are foreign professional worker and recruited and hired to come work in Taiwan. Your minimum salary, consider you're a professional worker, it cannot be less than this amount. Actually, every year, it changes a little bit, and it's in the increasing trend. So what I just checked online, currently is 47, pretty much 48,000 per month. So if you're getting paid less, you won't be able to come work in Taiwan, because that would not be considered as a professional worker. So your monthly salary has to be about that. And after that, there's a certain way to make sure you are legally working in Taiwan. First, of course, you fly in, you need to have a visa. And once you have a visa, then the company will take your visa and apply for a work permit. So that visa is just a visitor visa. It doesn't need to be a business visa. So fly in, and then during the time the company is applying for the work permit for you as an expat working in Taiwan, you're not allowed to leave the country. So just like all the other countries as well. So during the time of application, the person has to stay in the country. So basically, for the work permit itself, the length of the work permit can go up to 3 years, depends on the positions. That's being said, for those very high executive positions, when the company apply for the work permit, normally it can go up to 3 years, because it's just a very critical role for the company. So based on the justifications, it can go up to 3 years. But based on my experiences, when I apply for that for my the foreign workers, normally even if we apply for like 3 years, they will come up to like 1 year work permits. So every year when it's almost 4 months before it's due, then we need to extend the work permit. And there's no limit on the extension, how many times we can extend the work permit, as long as there's a reason for the employment and comply with the foreign recruitment criteria, then we can extend the work permit. And every extension up to 3 years as well. But based on my experience, normally the government office will issue 1 year work permit. So I think it's just a control for the control reason. So every year they know, okay, so you look into your work permit and make sure you really need this foreign worker, and so on and so on. So the work permit is the first thing that you, as a foreigner working in Taiwan, that is first thing, very critical, mandatory. And then after that, to be able to be covered by the national insurance that I just mentioned, to be seen, considered as a citizen residing in Taiwan. Because ARC doesn't need to be based on work permit. ARC can be based on like you come live with your family members. So you are the immediate family members to someone who is residing in Taiwan. That can be one of the reasons as well. So ARC, but we're talking about working in Taiwan. So this ARC will be based on work permit. Once you have the work permit, and then the next step is you will be applying for ARC. So this ARC is considered like a national ID for local Taiwanese citizens. And this ARC is also extendable. It only needs to be extended 30 days before it's due. So it's not a work permit 4 months before. ARC 30 days before it's due, you can apply for the extension as long as it's 30 days before due. Otherwise, there are certain penalties, or you might be facing the deportation. So this is very strict. I have like some friends as a foreign workers in Taiwan. They forgot to renew it, and they had to pay the penalty, or they are not allowed to come back to Taiwan within 1 year to 3 years. So yeah, for some reason, some people just forgot to check their ARC expiry date. So this one's very critical if you want to work in Taiwan as an expat. And for people who works in Taiwan for 5 years, and the key point here is every single year you reside and work in Taiwan, it has to be more than 183 days per year. And then out of country less than 3 months in a row. So you don't want to be gone for 3 months in a row. And also, like, in total, there has to be 183 days at a minimum. At least you are in the country. So if every single year, up to the 5th years, every year you reside in the country for more than 183 days, then you can apply for APRC, which means you no longer need to renew your ARC, extend your ARC. It's considered national ID, so it's a longer term. And I think for my national ID now, it's like 20 years length. So no ARC every. It depends on the work permit and then the issue, the approved length of ARC. But APRC it will be seen as a national ID for the local Taiwanese citizen. So in this case, and you are not bound to stay in the country for like 183 days anymore. You can actually travel as long as you want, as long as the APRC is still valid. So no need to. So some people APRC and then they just stop working for a while and just start traveling. But for a lot of expats working in Taiwan, they want to apply for this because might as well, because most of them might consider Taiwan as a base for them now, and they want to consider Taiwan as a home. So for people who apply for APRC, actually, majority of them are based in Taiwan, and they travel somewhere else and come back to Taiwan, consider Taiwan as a home base.
I see.
So that's something interesting for anyone who wants to work in Taiwan and live in Taiwan for a long time. And for tax part, I want to highlight this. So basically, it's the same criteria. Within 183 days, if it's less than 183 days of residence, no, actually more than, sorry, it has to be equals or greater than 183 days of residence. Then it's the same tax percentage as the local Taiwanese citizen. So we pay 6% as income tax. But if as an expat working in Taiwan, staying every year for that individual year, because that's a fiscal year. For that fiscal year, less than 183 days of residence, and then automatically the expat has to pay 18% of the income as income tax. So it's highly recommended that you stay 183 days in Taiwan. So tax-wise, you don't need to cover that much and pay to the government that much. Yeah, so that's for expats working in Taiwan. Any question?
No, very clear.
Okay, so thank you. I think that's for my sharing today.
Oh, thank you, Ashley. It's a wonderful question and very detailed. I have every reason to believe that you have ever worked in the labor department in Taiwan before.
I used to work with the office, labor office very often.
No wonder, no wonder. Okay, thanks a lot again. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Our pleasure to have you here. And we are going to organize a watch party for that, so that you'll be there to take any questions, if any. So that has concluded the session today. And so I wish you a very nice weekend. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too. Thanks.